like I needed a really great experience with it to kind of open my eyes to what it could be. And that was absolutely As You Like It. That was with, Damien Ryan, who's just like a Shakespeare, like walking encyclopedia of,
Oh, right. That would
just,
have helped.
oh, it was like that is like learning on the job, capital L. Like it was like, he was so gracious with me in particular. There were two of us who it was our like state theatre debut and first time doing Shakespeare for me. And it was,
Yeah.
I'd never worked with Shakespeare before and with a director who took so much care for the female characters in the work. Because I just get a little bit jaded sometimes with Shakespeare because I'm like, cool, he kind of set up what we know as like a typical play structure with all these men, and the women kind of characters are like this. And of course, there's some great roles for women, but I didn't feel like I sat in a space where I was ever being seen for them.
Okay.
So I kind of got a bit jaded, but he just opened my eyes to the joy of it. And I had the best time. Damien Ryan, I cannot recommend his Shakespeare work enough.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a name I'll note because I'm pretty big on Shakespeare,
Yep.
both on stage and theatrically, on film. So
Mm.
yeah, that's why I really wanted to bring it up to you because to me, it's one of my top 2 to 3 plays of his. I just love the
Yeah.
writing.
It's like it's so playful, and that sort of typical Shakespeare tongue-in-cheekness that he can kind of bring with that disguised trope is so
Mm,
joyous for an audience. You get to play with subtext and comedy so well, and it can be as farcical or grounded in truth as you want, like as his comedies can be, because they're so grand, his language.
yeah.
Find these big emotions. But it's tropey and it's fun, and audience are hungry for like, and for me, I was double cast as Celia and Phoebe. So I'm like literally getting a wedding as Celia and then running backstage through the Vom, chucking on like my Phoebe hat and coming,
Wow.
getting married as Phoebe, which is like, I love, oh, sorry, that's my speaker. I love like a joyous doubling. And I think for audiences, again, it was so, this is play. Like we are playing and we
Mm.
all know we're playing. Yeah, it was great fun. Yeah.
If you're ever going to tread the boards, you're going to tread the boards with 2 characters at once.
Yeah, like to the point like where it was, just really having a laugh at it, where it's like we're all meant to be on stage together and Sylvius is like, and at this point I'm Celia and Sylvius is like, Phoebe, like Phoebe, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, man, I don't know where Phoebe is, like. It was great.
I love it. I love it. I promise I'll get to Gaslight shortly because that's what we're here for. But I can't go past asking about Irreverent. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. You're in an episode of a Netflix series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal with a really good cast. How did that come about? I mean, are
Mm.
you doubling in auditioning for both film and stage, or
Yeah,
how
yeah.
does it work for you?
Yeah, so I kind of graduated. It was like technically class of 2020, but that was also a bit of a dead
Yeah,
zone.
that was a rough time.
Yeah, you're kind of graduating into like, our industry is decimated. What does this mean? So
Yeah.
it was a little bit weird. It kind of bled into 2021. But then they were doing Irreverent in Queensland, and I was kind of like, I could go back home.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I just did a tape for it, and then auditions kind of started snowballing. I'm only just now, I think, at the point in my career, a couple years of auditioning in, where it feels like you can feel a snowball effect. You're like, okay, the no's are getting clearer, and the no's are leading to stronger things, and the yeses are, coming a little bit more. So Reverent for me was like a really amazing first yes, for screen. Yeah.
Did you enjoy being on set and any experiences you can share, like something that really stood out?
Lucy, so the director of our episode was Lucy Gaffey, and she was amazing. She was really, really such a warm presence as a director. And
Yeah.
she encouraged a lot of beginning of the scene improv, which was really enjoyable. Because I mean, I was like sitting around there with some pretty like heavy hitters, and that was really exciting and nerve-wracking for me. But it was like a big kind of family feud between these two families, and
Mm,
she kind of just let us rip. And like it was, you know, when you give them permission to do that, it's so enjoyable.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was really fun. And also just being on site as well, like in Mission Beach. I'd never kind of gone on location to do something.
It makes it probably more authentic too when you are on an outdoor location,
Yeah,
and that helps the character, I assume.
yeah, definitely. It helps like with the with the squinting of the sun in the eyes. Actually, I do have something I found funny about Irreverent. I've forgotten about this. So
Yep.
I booked the role and I was like, this is amazing. I can't wait. They were flying me out to do like some hair and makeup stuff a little bit earlier. And I'm like, hair and makeup, amazing. I can't wait to see what they do. But of course, like I was playing quite a bogan character. So I got there and I was like, all right, what do we want to do? What are we thinking? Like, and they were like, okay, for you, we don't want to do any makeup. We just want to put sunscreen in your
Oh
hair.
no.
They were like, we really want you to look greasy. And I was like, okay.
Oh, what a shame. What a letdown for you.
I know. I was like, look, I understand. She's a pretty salt of the earth girl. Probably wasn't gonna have an intense glam moment. But yeah, so I was like getting sunscreen out of my hair for days. That was
Oh yeah, not good. Especially the oily sunscreen. As a
oh
surfer,
yeah.
I mean, I put it on all the time going out when I'm surfing or swimming. But yeah, it you can get better. Some sunscreen's better than others. Put it that way.
Yeah. And I think they wanted the worst of the
That
worst
look, yeah.
character. Yeah. So that was funny. But no, I had a
It,
great
it,
time.
but if nothing else, I would say that it's prepared you. Okay, you can go one or the other. You can have no makeup and just be in character, or you can get like all dolled up and look beautiful.
Oh, certainly. And I think for me, honestly, the idea of getting dolled up was honestly like a novelty. Because
Yeah.
that's not super true to life for me.
Oh,
So, you know, like that's part of the acting is being like, oh, I could be someone who spends an hour a day doing their makeup. Courtney Cavallaro is not.
oh.
But,
Well,
you know,
Courtney, I beg to differ. Seeing you in person on stage, you were
I don't wear
glowing,
I don't
looking
wear
great.
any makeup. I don't wear any makeup in Gaslight. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a well. I'm
Mm.
not surprised. I was going to say that that is surprising, but actually, it's not. The more I think about it,
No.
because yeah, it didn't seem like you were, but you don't need it. That's by choice? Is that by choice of the
Yeah,
directors
yeah.
and yeah?
They gave me a bit of freedom with it. Like, you know, if you want to kind of have a little bit, do it. And I sometimes play with a bit of blush if I'm feeling like I want to look a little bit more youthful, because that is a lot of what she brings to the show is kind of this jarring, youthful energy that sort of breaks the stiffness of the space.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, if I'm nervous, then I'll just get red in the face anyway, so it's fine.
Well, let's dwell on that. Nancy is a very particular character, uh,
Mm,
and this is the first time you've performed in Sydney. You were telling me, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you've toured, like how you've toured around. Have has the character changed? Have you changed any dynamics along the way, or has it stayed true?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've all, like the four of us, were all in agreement that the show has settled. I mean, it's just the luxury of time. You don't get this.
Yeah,
Mm,
I thought as much because
yeah.
the one the show I saw Friday week ago was just you could tell everyone was making those moves that they've done a
Mm.
million times before and they're on point, including yourself.
Yeah. You'd hope, like, you would hope that it gets better, but you wouldn't trust that because, you know, you're doing it for a long time. And depending on the dynamics of the team, the space, where people are
Yeah.
at in their lives, it could go downhill. Like you'd think it shouldn't, but I'm really glad that we're all kind of in agreement that it's just gotten richer. And yeah, I'm a little bit like, I'm happy that we're ending in Sydney, but I also wish that we could kind of go back to the other cities and be like, look how much it's changed.
Has there been any talk of an encore or maybe returning? Because it's maybe next
Yeah.
season.
There was talk of some different locations, but it is pretty tricky to lock down.
Sure.
Lock
Yeah.
down, even though it is a small cast, to lock down all of us.
Yeah.
Everyone's pretty talented and busy. Yeah.
Well, I'll get to your fellow cast. I'll ask about a few of them working with them, but uh, was it your spectacular role, double role in Shakespeare play that got you the role as Nancy? How did you have to audition or get handpicked, maybe?
Yeah, I think that definitely helped. Like, in this industry, every little thing is compounding and you kind of
It's a
just
small industry in its own way because people will recommend people as well.
100%. Yeah. So I mean, I had no real professional relationship with anyone at New Theatricals, but it was a co-pro with Queensland Theatre, and I obviously had made my debut with them the year before. And I think, yeah, like it's just you're just waiting for everything to align. And I did. I'd done a general audition for Lee before already.
Okay.
So I think that we had already formed a bit of a relationship after that. And I did like two kind of just a typical general, like two different pieces for her. And so we kind
Right.
of kept in touch. And then yeah, for Gaslight, for me at least, it was a self-tape initially, then an in-person callback. And yeah, I had a feeling. Sometimes you have a feeling, and I had a feeling, which was good. It's nice.
Did you put a bonnet on or a corset for the
I was
self-tape?
like, I have nothing, period, in my wardrobe. And I got to the callback. And honestly, like in this day and age, you don't have as much practice of sitting in a waiting room with people anymore because you are doing so many tapes. So I've
Yeah, yeah.
forgotten what it was like to kind of go into a room and be like, yes, here are all the other suitable 20 something, and they're all suitably dressed. And then like you're sitting outside and you can kind of hear everyone doing the piece. And you're like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
um,
That'd be off-putting because you'd hear their version of it, and but
oh
then
yeah,
you might change your own version because of
it's
it.
so
It'd be tricky.
off-putting.
Yeah, I'm no actor, but I can imagine it'd sway your thoughts if you're sitting in
Yeah.
a waiting room.
I think I try and just tune it out as best I can. I have a journal that I often bring to auditions just to do something with my hands and just to kind of do something with my brain to be like, oh yes, you were writing now. It just helps me as opposed to like sitting waiting,
Yeah.
which I found to be good. I think before Nancy's one, I was like, you are capable, you are about to go in and show them the magic that you can bring. Like it was very like positive kind of gratitude-esque
Good.
writing, and I think it helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Well, something worked because you got the role, you got the project, and here you are,
Yeah.
uh, doing so well at it. What can I say about the audience? The audience was pretty enthralled. Do you find that audiences have been different from state to state?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, for the most part,
Mm,
everyone is enjoying it. Like it's nice to have something that is really quite dark and
yeah,
a really serious story still kind of be entertaining, because I think that there's value and merit in a story well
right.
told. A story that grips you will take you to the thought places that maybe we're hoping to take you to, because
Yeah,
we're telling you a story. We're not like we can have a discussion after, but like that's not our job. Our job is to use our craft to
mm,
bring you into a world that then takes you to a different place with your friend in the foyer and your, partner when you get home and whatnot. So it's been really enjoyable to hear people enjoying themselves still.
I'm
And
glad.
enjoying is not always laughing. It's like gasping and all the rest. But I think Queensland was the most like we had people yelling like, like go Elizabeth, and like it was amazing. It's fun to, kind of lose a bit of like when you incite that much of a reaction from people, quite enjoyable.
Look, I've got Queensland friends and I love being up there, but that's no shock when it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Queenslanders.
Yeah, everyone was
Uh,
so into it.
they're into it. They can be loud. I mean, they probably think they're at a state of origin or something, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
an inevitable question, I'm sure you've been asked plenty of times before, and I got to ask it because I'm interested myself. The movies that, you know, were you aware of the movies? Had you seen the movies before you got the role? Because, you know, Nancy, again, are played by two different actors
Mm.
in the two Gaslights.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't watched them before the role. I watched before my audition. I think sometimes, like when you're doing something that's been done before, I err on the side of caution with watching what someone else has done.
Of course, I get that. Yeah.
But this felt a little bit different because it's like kind of this felt more like honoring necessary research. And I mean, yeah, like because again, we're doing a slightly different version of the story. Um, so I did watch both of them and particularly watched like Angela Lansbury's one.
Yeah.
Like a fair few times, which was really joyous. But then also tried to then go, okay, that is like my research. That is not what I'm doing. Um, and then tried to synthesize what I felt like, you know, she had going for her in that film, and then what I felt like our version in 2024 needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, your initials, CC, there's Caitlin Cordell, is the actress who plays Nancy in the
Yeah.
1940 version.
Yeah.
CC, both CC. So there's a link.
Meant to be. Meant to be. Yeah. Yeah. No, I really liked the films as well.
Yeah, yeah, they're
Um,
great.
yeah. Yeah, it was really cool to watch them. I haven't watched I have a lot of I think I have a gap in some old film history that I'm like,
Mm.
okay, this has sparked a bit of a want to deep dive. Mm.
There's there's been other movies since, like similar to Gaslight themes, but
Mm.
not exactly the same. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Let's Scare Jessica to Death was another one. I even think Gone Girl was
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
similarities as well.
Mm. Yes,
Yeah,
certainly.
definitely. Yeah, it's because the subject of manipulation and domestic, I mean, not quite as physical, but psychological abuse is so, it must be hard, like just to act that out, knowing that this probably happens to people in real life.
Yeah, and then also on top of that, Nancy's role is so like she's not quite villain and she's not quite hero, you know? Like obviously this is Bella's story and we're rooting
Yeah,
for her, but I think I have to sort of see the value in I guess in our production, I think of it as like there's sort of these three generations of women, and they're
mm,
sort of figuring out how to allow their intelligence to shine under
yeah,
the different constraints that they kind of have in terms of like housekeeper Elizabeth, who's really understands that upstairs downstairs dynamic and is really not
yeah,
meant to say a lot, how she can ascertain how to help Bella. Then of course Bella, who's like this fragile kind of person who doesn't have a
yeah,
lot of support networks around her, so is really like a really great victim for Jack, and trying to figure out how to be a lady of a house. And then we've got Nancy, who is sort of bound by class, largely, and a need to survive. While Bella is trying to survive that relationship, Nancy is like,
yeah,
I'm trying to,
yeah,
like, you know, and I think that like they all have something to offer each other,
yeah,
which is quite fun. And then also I think, you know, it's 2024. The show's called Gaslight. Like we coming in, we have a guess as to where this is going to go. There's three women and there's one like male partner. I think everyone's
sure.
going, okay, like even if they haven't seen the films, and it's kind of our job to be like, you think you know, but could you like this guy? And could you maybe start suspecting the housekeeper, kind of typical dodgy housekeeper trope? And could you start suspecting this shifty young, you know, girl and kind of just tease it a bit? Um,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Nancy's excitable
Mm.
and not easily led. She's still got her
Yeah.
own decisions, but she knows what she wants as well and what she's getting out of it. So she's playing along to some extent.
Which is, you know, hard as Courtney to do. I'm like, oh God. But then also necessary, because I think that when she reveals that she knows, it is a bit of a breath.
Oh yeah.
Like the first
Yeah.
time the two women are actually having a frank conversation
Yeah.
in that whole play. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could have heard a pin drop in my audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So your cast members that you work with, Geraldine in particular, we'll talk about a few of them if you like, but just Geraldine, I mean, have you worked with her? Did you know her?
Yeah.
There's some great, she's got such a presence on stage.
She does. Yeah. I hadn't worked with any of them before.
Okay.
So, it was all fresh for me. And like Geraldine has just been so lovely and so generous with me. And
Great.
yeah, like you couldn't ask for a more kind of gracious, top of the call sheet sort of person,
Yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful. As well.
Anyone else stand out? Kate, of course, is a legend.
Yeah, we have such a small cast that it's like, we it feels like
Everyone's terrific.
family. Yeah. And it's like, it's funny, like Kate and I, we kind of slip into the upstairs downstairs dynamic a little bit of like, we're backstage kind of like, what are they doing out there? Like, here we go, and just like Kate loves a laugh. So we just kind of fill our time with just laughter backstage, really, which is great.
So how does that work as an actor? Do you get a chance to sit down and relax and chill until, do you get a call when you're on stage and you have the sound, the volume happening so you know the progress of the play?
Yeah, I think that some people, when they're doing shows, they ask for calls. Like they'll go back to their dressing room
Yeah,
and
okay. Yeah.
get the stage manager to be
That's
like,
what I thought happened, yeah.
But for me, I like to kind of I prefer to just be on top of that myself. And because Nancy is involved in the kind of the scene changes and like the fold between each bit, like I sort of stay nearby for a lot of it. Because she's got to come in and out a lot. But this is definitely the most like relaxed track I've ever had for theatre. Normally I, especially with doubling, Say It As You Like It, and just a lot of other shows I've done have been quite physically demanding. This one, I kind of come off and I'm used to being on the whole time. Whereas with this, I was like, actually, it's sort of a disservice to like, if I try and like hold this energy for like a whole scene. So I just let it go. And then I find that it's more than enough time for me to just have 10 seconds before I go on and remind myself of like where I am and what state I'm walking in.
So in full costume, you don't actually like step out and grab a coffee and,
Oh, I think
Imagine
I get a slap from wardrobe if I grabbed a coffee.
Probably, yeah.
I do read actually. Like
Okay.
I don't know if that's
Nice.
no sure, but I read backstage. Because as I said, I think I've realized that there's a plateau with the work if I'm trying to be like,
Sure,
no,
yeah.
stay present, because like it's craft and you get better and better at realizing that you need more time doesn't always equate to better work. Yeah.
Have you ever, I mean, progression in society and actors and just our industry in general, have you ever thought maybe there'd be like an all-female version of Gaslight down the track? That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. I mean, it like I feel like I'm interested in the messy ugliness, and I think that as women, as female actors, I think people are like hungry for messy, kind of unapologetically flawed characters. Not necessarily like evil characters, although they are really fun to play. So there's that. But I mean, yeah, it's like anyone is capable of being, both victim to and perpetrator of. And it's like, again, going back to that like teasing that we're trying to do, I think it's like that there is value in that. It's entertainment, but it's also being like, things are not, you say that you would know and you say that you could never, but it's
Mm,
so easy. And like, you know, it's never black and white. It's just a trickle of gray in
mm,
relationships and dynamics, and slowly over time power shifts, and before you know it, you're in a
yeah.
situation that you know thought that you could never be susceptible to. So I think that there's like a myriad of ways that a Jack Bella dynamic could be played.
Oh, there was a reworking of the story in the Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah,
So that happened as well. Like that, there's
yeah.
so many ways of manipulating someone's life and then putting it into a gaslight type story, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if something happens in an audience, what do you do? Like if a phone goes off, have you ever had that? Have you ever had a distraction where an old lady's got up and fallen over? Or I mean, not just an old lady, but
Yeah.
anyone,
No, we have
or
had that.
someone drunk? Like, has it ever happened to you? And what did you do?
I
I'm
think
interested.
the more potent question is there a show where that hasn't happened?
Oh, you
Um,
really?
it
It's a
honestly,
regular thing.
it
Okay.
astounds me that like people don't turn their phones off. I don't understand it. I never will. No, there's constantly phones going off. So like you just have to deal.
What
Um,
about Flash? The
yeah.
Flash?
Well,
Yeah.
I think Flash, like less so, but you know, this is going to my gripes and grievances for the theater now.
No, please. I'm
I
interested.
think there's a problem with smartphones, like smart watches,
Mm,
because like, you know, every man and their dog seems to have one now, but there's not really any like real cultural rigor around like, oh, turn that off. But it just means that there's like squares of light on. And
ah.
I'm like, this is really peeving me off. If I was a musician, I would definitely be one of those musicians that was like, everyone, put your phones away. We're doing a no phone hour. And I thought that's what we did in the theater, but apparently I'm in the minority for that. No, there's a lot of distractions, and you just have to. I think in this play, it's so quiet. So
Mm,
it's really obvious, you know,
mm,
it's not like there's a musical number and we can kind of just like get louder. It's like, no, we're really playing with silence here and your alarms
yeah.
are blaring. I've
Oh,
definitely stared people down before.
you have? That's good.
Yeah, because I'm like, turn it off. Like,
Yeah.
because some people, I think they're so embarrassed that they don't want to admit that it's them.
Yeah,
So they're like, let it ring
possibly.
out. And I'm like,
Mm,
turn it off, turn it off. But I think if there's one person who's even more frustrated by that, it's Toby. He gets really frustrated by phones.
okay.
So it makes me feel like valid in my kind of annoyance. But yeah, you like I have no solution. You just deal, you know.
Mm,
It's just, and I guess it is true to life, you know. There's distractions all the time. So
yeah, fair enough. But I was just asking you that question. Maybe there would have been a one-off or a
yeah.
couple of times, not that it happens pretty much every show. That's
Mm.
incredible.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like matinees, you can really like you can hear the crinkle of people with their snacks, you know, the beautiful seniors coming.
Yeah, yeah,
uh
of course.
yeah, you kind of get attuned to the
Yeah.
coughing amps up in a matinee as well. Um yeah, it's just like one long training ground of just getting used to it, really. So it doesn't phase you.
A couple more before we wrap up. I don't know how to follow that answer though. I wasn't prepared for that. I'm very discouraged by audiences because you know
Yeah.
it's basically what I do, film and theater, and yeah, I'm discouraged that you see it so often. Now, I don't know the status ship of your personal life or relationships or whatever, but has this role helped you sort of gain an awareness of who's lying and who's not, and maybe someone who's manipulating you? Can you pick it now and just go, no?
Oh,
Has it helped, or is there just too many people out there like it?
yeah, yeah. Well, narcissists are on the rise. I think it's like there's 20% is supposedly the number of narcissists, and
Right,
they
I was
breed.
unaware of that. Okay.
Yeah. And the further along you get in maybe a career or in a like in your professional field, the higher up you go, the more likely they are because they want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's certainly kept that front of mind. I'd like to think I'm suddenly a super perceptive person, but I don't know if it's translated amazingly. I think that doing this role has definitely helped develop
Mm.
a thickness of skin though, or a kind of like, it's been a lesson in reminding yourself of what value you bring to a space.
Yeah.
Because Nancy, she doesn't, she gets a relatively anticlimactic end.
Sure. Yeah,
And
sure.
she's really important to the story, but she sort of kicks off the climax, so you kind of can't blow the load of the show with that big scene that she has.
Yeah.
Um, so I think for me, in terms of personal revelations or personal growth, it's like being like remembering the choices that you made and backing yourself is like a valuable thing, and has been a valuable thing for me this year, because it's like she is a point of difference. That
Yeah.
is the way I'm playing her, and I think a huge value that she brings to the space. And sometimes it's hard to be a point of difference. You want to be like fitting in, but she deliberately, and also just by virtue of the fact that she doesn't understand, she doesn't fit in.
No.
um she doesn't get upstairs, downstairs. She doesn't get why we're like putting our hands in front of our chest, like waist and seven. Like, she just physically doesn't get that. So that's been like a fun joy and challenge for me as a person, to just be
Mm.
leaning into the like sticking out like a sore thumb.
Good. Good. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you probably haven't had any hurdles, and you will never have any hurdles, hopefully, in your career, because there can be some
Never.
sharks out there. And there's so much change happening and opportunities anyway.
Mm,
I still
mm.
think there's a lot. Everyone I speak to still says there's a lot, that we can still do, but there's progress at the very least. Things have
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Good. Well, speaking of which, what's next? Can you share any projects, or when you're on something like Gaslight, are you not allowed to like search for your next role? Does it have to be focused on Gaslight
Mm.
only, or can you
It's
tell me about
tricky.
something that's maybe potentially happening for you soon, Court?
Yeah, it is tough when you're doing a thing this long. You kind of can't audition for things because you're not available. Um,
Mm.
but I've reached now in the last kind of fortnight, I'm sort of starting to be able to audition for things again, which is nice.
Yeah.
Um, I actually can't say a lot. I have something in the works as a writer,
Oh,
really
okay.
exciting. I'm working with someone who I met, a really wonderful actor who I met in Irreverent, someone I've looked up to for a long time. She's gonna be a part of the work that I'm writing, which is really exciting. And I'm waiting on a call, which I'll hopefully get in like a day or
Can
two.
you tell me, is it film,
Yeah,
television,
for a
or
TV
theatre?
series.
A
Yeah.
TV series. Okay.
So that would be amazing. And a bit of a game changer. But other than that, like, just it's only now just kind of clocking over to the point where I can audition. So
Yeah, yeah.
um I'm hoping things will land.
Well, any maybe chance of a musical? Is that something? Are you musically inclined? There's quite a lot of song and dance productions in the works, I hear.
Yeah. I am trying to sort of transition into doing more musicals. Yeah, because I mean, I at WAPA there is a specific like MT course, and I was very much like, that is their kind of their lane. But
Yeah, yeah.
I adore, like, I adore singing, and I adore good musicals. So I think in the next year or so, my agent and I are hoping to push
Cool.
push for musicals a little bit more, push for singing. Geraldine and I were gonna have a little sing in a couple of days just for fun.
Oh,
Uh
cool.
she's
Okay, that'd
actually
be
a great
awesome.
singer. Yeah. She's released like a EP. I think it's under
Yeah, yeah.
her name. She's a gorgeous singer. Yeah. So yeah, we have sing-alongs together sometimes, which is nice. But yeah.
Maybe a musical version of Gaslight, or you
Yeah.
could just burst out into a song on your
Yeah.
last performance, because
Song and dance. Yeah.
I mean, actors always play up a bit when it's the final performance
Yeah.
of a show. You could always
Yeah.
sing some of your lines.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, is it worth it? Do I want to be employed again? Do I want to do I want to sing a song? Both are pretty high up on my list. So
Well, to finish off this chat, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you. These are a couple of questions that just to tell us a little bit more about you. So, firstly, you mentioned reading before. What is the last book you read, or your current book you're reading?
I just finished it, I think yesterday. I finished 2 books in the last 2 days and they were both
Oh,
amazing.
cool. Yeah,
Um,
cool.
A Language of Limbs is by an Australian author, Dylan something.
Okay.
And it is just a really gorgeous, it was it was a wonderful poetically told historical story. Like it was set against over 3 decades, set against the backdrop of like the first Mardi Gras and like
Right.
AIDS. Like I mean, it traversed time and there were kind of these two parallel stories, but it was like a very uniquely Australian story. And it was so
Great.
gorgeous. I highly recommend that. And I also read The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell.
Uh-huh.
Just recently gotten into. I read Hamnet, which is going to be turned into a film.
I
With
heard that. Yeah.
yeah, Paul, which I'm a big fan of Paul's. Paul Mescal, I think is
Yeah.
his last.
Yeah. Paul Mescal. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I read that first, and I was like totally again on the Shakespeare train now. I was like, okay, I'm on board. And that was gorgeous because you kind of know how it's going to end. Um,
Yeah.
and it's like one of those tragedies, like kind of like watching Medea modern day now, where you're like, oh, we know these kids are going to die. Like this hurts
Mm,
more. And
mm.
Maggie's just got this wonderful way with words, both very poetic. I think I'm enjoying indulgent language at the minute.
Oh, that's great. Well, that makes sense. You being an actor, of course, and a
Yeah,
writer
yeah.
yourself, it helps.
Yeah.
What about movies and or television shows? Have you got any to recommend? I mean, you probably don't have a lot of time, but any
Yeah.
movies recently or shows?
I'm always trying to keep my finger on the pulse with what's coming out, but it always feels like there is never enough time.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what I watched most recently. I actually watched a series that is kind of has been out for a couple of years recently. I watched Dope Sick.
I never saw it. I heard it was good though.
I loved it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the kind of 8 by 1 hour limited series
Yeah,
format.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
when it's necessary, like it's a really great way to delve into a story and get a sense of like peripheral characters, as long as it doesn't feel like it's something that could have been done in a movie.
yeah.
Then
True.
you're kind of like, why are we watching 8 hours of this? But I felt like Dope Sick was, it was again, it was kind
Mm,
of historical, like based off truth and
mm.
extrapolated from there. So it was educational, which I like in a story. That and also The Dropout, again, like an 8 by 1 hour. Those two series, I loved them.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, big fan.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like it when a show is limited
Mm,
because you never know if it's going to have two seasons and then get like dropped,
yeah.
cancelled, or but one-off series are always generally pretty good. So I
Know what you're
agree.
getting in for. And I mean,
Yeah,
I love when I get attached to characters and I'm like, I want
yeah,
these people in my life for 20 seasons, but it's hard. Like it's just impossible to find the right ending. And it's rare that a show like really sticks it. So
mm,
I think having a limited series as a format is quite nice to go into because you're like, cool, this is the story. And then it's out of my life.
yep, that's it. A couple more. Do you cook? Have you got a specialty dish or anything, or you
Ooh.
don't cook much?
I have actually been cooking a fair bit in because in the place that I'm in right now, I have a full kitchen. So
Ah,
I've been
cool.
getting my cook on. I'm Italian, so
Yep.
I lean towards well, I'm actually Sicilian, and I lean towards those kinds of dishes. So I made a really
Yeah.
good pesto pasta the other day. That was nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's coming up to lunchtime. My
Yeah.
mouth watering. Do you have a middle name?
I do. My middle name is Angel.
Oh, wow. How cool's that? That's theatrical.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. So
exotic and theatrical. I love it. That's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah,
Is it after anyone? Have you got a relative, or was it just something your parents said they wanted you to
yeah.
be,
My
an angel?
parents, they were quite young when they had me. Like they just turned 18. And I think that it was like, she's our little angel.
No. And final question, because I'm one, but I always like to know if other people can also do it. Can you surf?
Um, I wish I could give a strong yes. I can give a soft yes. My
Nice.
granddad is like big on surfing, like he surfs every day still. And if I go and stay with him, because he lives at the sunny coast, I'll generally have a go on his board, but I don't do it regularly enough to be like, yes. But I love surfing and I'm pretty good with like center of gravity
Yeah,
types. Like
that's what it's all about, balance.
yeah, I've always really enjoyed like I actually with him as well, I would skateboard and roller skate,
Nice.
rollerblade. So like I find that kind of sport quite intuitive. So I do really enjoy it when I do it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you talking to me. Gaslight in 3 words. How would you describe it if someone doesn't even know anything about it and now they're thinking of seeing it? How would you describe it in 3 adjectives?
Um Gripping, um mysterious,
Ripping's good.
um and
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's good. It's succinct. Yeah, gripping, mysterious, entertaining.
Gripping, mysterious, entertaining. That's great. Well, I really appreciate our chat and getting to know you.